Cooper Flagg is being called a generational defender. Analysts are comparing him to Kevin Garnett, Scottie Pippen, and Kawhi Leonard. They talk about his instincts, his motor, his versatility, and some say defense will be his calling card. But after watching every single one of his defensive possessions from March Madness, I have to be honest, I didn't see what everyone was talking about. I'm not here to tear down Cooper Flagg. He's clearly talented. He's clearly going to be the #1 overall pick. But if we're going to call him an elite NBA level defender before he plays a game, it's going to pique my interest. And we're going to need to look at the whole picture. His strengths, his weaknesses, who those defensive clips are against, and what the film actually shows. From lockdown possessions to the lapses no one's talking about. This is the complete defensive scouting report on Cooper Flagg. And let's clarify, because what people are saying are not small claims. They're saying it's his calling card, his edge, that he'll be a top 10 defender in the entire league from day one, and comparisons have gotten out of control. They're not scouting a prospect anymore, they're building a mythology. So I watched every single defensive possession from March Madness, the highest competition at the highest stakes. Not the highlights against mid-majors, not the mixtape cut-ups, the closeouts, the footwork, the rotations, the mistakes, the plays that don't show up in the box score. Because this isn't about hype, this is about film. So let's start with his on-ball defense. Because Cooper Flagg is very much a containment defender. He's not picking up full court, he's not pressuring the ball, his approach is different. He uses space, he backs off, gives a cushion, and keeps the ball in front. Not to bait a shot, but to protect the rim. He's using his size and length as a barrier. Here's a great example. The guard tries twice to get by Flagg, but Flagg keeps his cushion and the guard can't get by his hips, so he gives it up. Then Flagg makes the smart play to deny the pass back, taking away another isolation attempt. What pairs nicely with that containment style is his recovery angles. Watch how he gets beat on his top foot here, but he recovers smartly. He doesn't overreact. He takes a conservative angle and stays between the ball and the basket. This is classic bend but not break on-ball defense. He absorbs mistakes, uses space, and forces second decisions, not blow-by layups. And that's the appeal. If you expect Flagg to switch 1 through 5, you need him to survive these types of possessions. Containing the drive, switching on to the next attacker, recovers again, navigates a screen, and contests the late shot clock 3. But the thing about containment defense is without proper footwork, it's a dangerous game. And this is where the flaws start to show for Flagg. He has a tendency to hop around on defense, popping off the floor with both feet to change his angles or move laterally. And once both feet are in the air, you're no longer able to react. You'll notice Flagg also opens up his hips too early, sometimes off simple fakes. And this matters more than it looks like in these clips, because Flagg isn't preparing to guard college wings, he's preparing to guard NBA players. Here's a play where the ball handler retreats and Flagg leads with his top foot. That's the exact angle elite scorers attack. The wrong foot forward becomes a target. And that's not the only concern. When his hips open up, he gives up his leverage. It's no longer about cutting off the drive, it's about riding it. And to his credit, he recovers well at the college level. But in the NBA, those drives will be from a lot more explosive players. And it might seem like a subtle detail, but a hang dribble here, a hesitation there, and suddenly Flagg's hips are open. The cushion he relies on becomes a weapon for the offense. We even see him jump on jabs like here, where a simple fake gets him popping sideways. We want containment defenders to step back, not pop up. As odd as it sounds, Flagg needs to move his feet less as a containment defender, because when he moves them this often, it forces his hips and feet to be out of position. As a comparison, although it might seem odd, watch Joe Johnson, now 44 years old, stay in front of this ball handler, trying every move in the book to shake him. Johnson instead stays locked in, not pressuring, not overreacting to fakes, but reading the hips of the offense, not the ball. It's a tight line to walk. You can't be too manic on the ball with your feet, but you also can't be too flat-footed. It's about finding the balance. And to be clear, Flagg does show some signs. When he does stay grounded, he reads the attack and keeps his hips square, you can see the potential. Flagg catches this drive really well, right in his chest sliding, and then on the re-attack, he gets back in front and gets the charge. That's great, but when he turns and runs in the half court, that's when things break down. Things look great when he keeps his hips square, but when he turns and runs, that's where things start to break down. Watch here, Flagg doesn't stay square, he turns his hips and upper body. Now he's chasing and sprinting instead of defending. And if the guard is to stop or snatch back, Flagg would be completely out of the play. So what I see being Flagg's biggest adjustment to take the next step is a consistent, powerful crossover step. Instead of turning and running, he can use a crossover slide to explode, keep his chest square, and cut off the attack. But even when Flagg does show signs of trying this technique, it's often incomplete. The foot doesn't swing fully across, and the push-off isn't explosive enough. That's one technique we'll have to add to his training proposal at the end of this video. But overall, Cooper Flagg's on-ball defense is built around containment. But if it's to scale to the next level, it will come down to footwork, hip angles, and control. The potential is there, but so are the concerns. And if you thought those angles were bad, just wait till we get to his on-ball screen defense. That's when things really start to fall apart. Because in the NBA, ball screens aren't just common, they're constant. Flagg is going to defend hundreds of pick and rolls every season, and right now, this might be his biggest area of concern. Here's the issue. Because Flagg plays such a cushion on the ball, it gives the screener and ball handler all the room and time to create separation. Watch how low the screener is able to set this screen against Flagg, and now Flagg has to go up and around the screen to recover, while the ball handler just needs to go straight downhill. And although all these clips don't lead to baskets, it still ends up being an advantage for the offense. And in this play, he does give up a deep screen angle again because of that cushion right at the three-point line, and allows the guard to walk right into a pull-up three. But even the times when Flagg does get over the screen, there's a second problem. He doesn't have any leverage, he doesn't have any contact or pressure, and that means elite guards or wings can turn the corner cleanly and get to paint touches easily. Now, to Duke's credit, they run a defense that leans heavily on gap help. You'll see it here. Flagg gets caught trying to recover, but it's the gap defender who steps up and stops the drive. Again, the gap defender saves the possession. But that kind of bailout doesn't happen often in the NBA, where help is spaced out and the shooters, well, they don't miss. So what does Flagg need to fix? Well, first, he needs to avoid getting rejected on the screen. He needs to create contact and engage the ball handler to take away those rejects. That engagement and contact before the screen will also give him better leverage and a better angle of recovery over the screen. Now, these are skills that can be trained through agility mechanics and also reps of key techniques that can help him blow up ball screens. For now, the takeaways are clear. If Flagg wants to hold up as a forward at the NBA level, his ball screen defense needs a lot of work before it can fit in a non-switching scheme. And since we've already brought up Duke's gap-based defense, let's dive deeper into Flagg's off-ball positioning, starting with his work in the gap, especially one pass away. Because there are two areas of concerns for me. First, his lack of activity in the gap, especially in a scheme that thrives on stunts and gap presence. Second, his recovery speed from the gap to close out. It's slower than you'd want, especially for a high-level forward. In most of these clips, Flagg is not guarding a shooter, which means he should be stunting aggressively into the lane. But what we see instead consistently is, well, nothing. No stunt, no dig, no disruption, just a stationary gap presence, giving up an open lane and not helping for the on-ball defender. That's a big problem. Duke relies on stunt help in these spots, but Flagg simply isn't delivering that frontline support consistently. The second issue is his recovery speed from the gap. Whether he stunts or not, Flagg is often slow to close back to his man. These shots might miss in college, but in the NBA, that's a clean look for a knockdown shooter. And when he does close out with speed from the gap, you can see how open he is to getting blown by. And that might be the most frustrating part. He can do it, you see flashes, but you rarely see the follow-through. Here, he nearly picks off the pass using a technique made famous by defenders like Alex Caruso and Tony Allen. With his length and timing, that's a tool he should be using more often. But it's rare. I only found that one clip. More often, we see a lack of pursuit off the ball, like in this clip, where the ball handler is moving away from his gap, and instead of closing that space, Flagg just, well, stays home and gives up the spin back too. This is where elite defenders we've been seeing all playoffs long make this blindside steal by running through that spin and closing the gap early. There's also an awareness issue that pops up from time to time. Watch here, he stunts at the popper, but then completely loses his man and gives up the offensive rebound because of it. And in this play, the ball screen happens, the short roll is completely wide open, and Flagg shows no rotation to it. He has the tools, certainly, to be an elite gap defender, wingspan, instincts, occasional flashes, but the consistency, the technique, and the awareness, they still need to be refined. But not everything is a concern. His help side instincts, well, they're something entirely different. Just that simple move from gap defender to help defender unlocks the world for Flagg. He looks like a completely different player. From the low man spot, he shows excellent awareness, rotating early, making steals, and most importantly from this spot, Flagg can use his rim protection instincts to clean up the glass and often come out of nowhere to block these shots. And it's not just about the highlight blocks, as you'll see many of them, it's also about disrupting the basket. Even when he doesn't leave the ground, he'll rotate over, stay vertical, and wall up strong. That's what you want from a versatile backline anchor. If there's one thing I could say I want to see more of, it's his hands. Flagg often rotates to the right spot, but the issue is his hands are sometimes down or inactive. If he can come over like a wall on wheels with active hands, he's going to turn a lot of those dump-off passes or kickouts into deflections, stops, or even steals. So while his gap defense left questions, his help side rotations are a real strength. Now it's just about adding the finishing touches, which brings us to the end of a possession, where it becomes all about rebounding. And on paper, Flagg might seem pretty solid. He averages 7.5 rebounds per game. But the film tells a slightly different story. The first concern is his hands. Flagg tends to bobble a lot of these rebounds, especially when they're contested. In traffic, it's like the ball isn't cleanly sticking. That's not just a fluke either. It comes up multiple times across multiple games. Even when he does successfully end up with it, it's certainly not clean, which is very surprising. The second concern is his rebounding radius. We want to see how easily he can track down rebounds outside of his individual cylinder. and we often don't see many out-of-area rebounds from Flagg. So yes, he does rebound the ball, but he certainly isn't owning the glass. And honestly, this is one of the more shocking sections for me, because with his athleticism and size, I expected this to be a clear strength from his position, and he still has a lot of room to grow. So after watching every defensive possession from March Madness, what's the real verdict on Cooper Flagg's defense? Well, there's a lot to like. His rotations as a low man are legit, his ability to protect the rim is high level, and he is capable of containing the ball across some matchups. But the hype around Flagg's defense, that's gotten ahead of the film. There are real concerns: inconsistent footwork, passive gap defense, poor screen navigation, rebounding struggles, and although he has good technique in his closeout, he still needs to get better at containing the drive. These are the things that show up again and again on film. I'm not just cherry picking examples to make a headline, these are what show up in my film study. And I'm not saying he won't get there, he has the tools. But if we're projecting him to be an elite NBA defender today, he's not there yet. What the film does show is a high IQ, high potential prospect who's going to need to tighten up the details and add some new weapons to his toolkit. So to wrap this up, I want to preview a few of the areas I think Flagg can improve, with drills and teaching points to help make those changes. We're talking about footwork development, crossover step mechanics, proper stunt angles from the gap, and closeout footwork. So if you're a player, coach, or trainer, I've broken down these exact drills and techniques on my Substack. So if you want to watch and read the full Cooper Flagg Defensive Improvement Guide, there's your link in the description below. This was the full breakdown of Cooper Flagg's defense. The good, the bad, and the parts no one are talking about. And to learn more about how you can blow up your own ball screens, check out the next video. As always, I'm Coach Mike with Lockdown Defense. Keep up the hard work.